Have you ever found yourself in a room full of people, yet feeling entirely alone, shrinking into the background, convinced you have nothing of value to add? Have you ever abandoned a goal not because it was impossible, but because the voice in your own head told you that you were not capable? This erosion of self-belief, this quiet crumbling of our inner fortress, is one of the most painful human experiences. Confidence is not about arrogance or loudness. It is the calm, steady assurance in one's own ability to navigate the storms of life. It is the bedrock upon which we build our ambitions, our relationships, and our peace of mind. Yet for so many, this foundation is built on sand, easily washed away by common, often unconscious mistakes. We live in a world that constantly tests our resolve. From the curated perfection of social media to the relentless pressure to succeed, the external world seems designed to make us question our worth. But the ancient Stoics knew a profound truth. The greatest battles are not fought in the arena or the boardroom, but in the theater of our own minds. They taught that true confidence, what they might call euthymia or tranquility, comes not from external praise or possessions, but from an internal state of order and reason. It is a skill to be cultivated, a muscle to be strengthened. Today, we will delve into the 8 crucial mistakes that silently sabotage this vital strength. And we will turn to the timeless wisdom of the Stoics to learn how to correct our course, rebuild our foundation, and forge an unshakable confidence that endures. And if you stay with me until the end, I will share an ancient parable that perfectly captures the true source of unshakable confidence. Now, let's begin. The first and perhaps most pervasive mistake is the relentless search for external validation. This is the habit of measuring your self-worth by the applause, opinions, and approval of others. You post a picture and anxiously check the likes. You share an idea and hold your breath, waiting for consensus. You dress not for yourself, but for the anticipated judgment of strangers. When you live this way, you are handing over the keys to your own happiness to a fickle and ever-changing jury. Your sense of self becomes a reflection in 1,000 different mirrors, distorted by the biases, moods, and whims of people who do not walk in your shoes or understand your journey. This dependency creates a fragile, hollow confidence that shatters the moment the praise stops or criticism arrives. The great Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private meditations, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." This is the core of the Stoic remedy, the dichotomy of control. The opinions of others are fundamentally outside of our control. We can be the kindest, most brilliant, most virtuous person, and someone will still find a reason to dislike or dismiss us. To stake our confidence on something so uncontrollable is, in the Stoic view, an act of madness. True worth must be anchored in what we can control: our character, our intentions, our actions, and our judgments. Confidence, therefore, should be the result of living in accordance with your own well-examined values, not the fleeting reward for pleasing an external audience. To break free from this trap, you must begin the deliberate practice of building an internal locus of evaluation. This starts with self-reflection. Take the time to define your own values. What does it mean for you to be a good person, a successful professional, a loyal friend? Write these principles down. Let them become your North Star. When you face a decision, ask yourself not, "What will they think?" but, "Is this action in alignment with my principles?" Start celebrating your own adherence to your values. Did you act with courage despite your fear? Acknowledge it. Did you show kindness when it was difficult? Appreciate it. By consistently judging yourself by your own internal stable criteria, you slowly reclaim your power. The applause of others becomes a pleasant but non-essential bonus to a confidence that is already whole. The second mistake that acts like a slow poison to our confidence is the habit of comparing ourselves to others. In our hyper-connected world, this has become an epidemic. We scroll through endless feeds showcasing curated moments of success, beauty, and happiness, and we measure our own messy, complex reality against this impossible mirage. This game is rigged from the start, for we are always comparing our behind-the-scenes footage to someone else's highlight reel. It breeds envy, resentment, and a persistent feeling of inadequacy. We see a colleague's promotion and feel our own career is stagnating. We see a friend's vacation photos and feel our own life is dull. This constant measurement against external benchmarks ensures we are always falling short because the finish line is always moving, attached to someone else's life. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wisely observed the folly of this habit. He understood that envy is a self-inflicted punishment and that focusing on the paths of others only serves to distract us from our own. He wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." The desire to have what others have, to be what others are, is a source of profound poverty of spirit. The Stoic approach is to turn your gaze inward and forward onto your own unique path. Your journey is yours alone, with its own unique set of challenges, advantages, and timelines. To compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20 is not just unfair, it is illogical. The only valid comparison is with the person you were yesterday. To combat this destructive habit, you must cultivate two powerful practices: gratitude and self-tracking. Begin each day by actively acknowledging what you have, not what you lack. This simple shift in focus from scarcity to abundance is transformative. Keep a journal of your own progress. Look back at where you were a year ago, 5 years ago. Celebrate the skills you've learned, the obstacles you've overcome, and the wisdom you've gained. This creates a powerful narrative of personal growth that is immune to external comparison. Finally, be ruthless in curating your informational diet. Unfollow accounts that trigger feelings of envy or inadequacy. Follow those that inspire, educate, and encourage you on your own path. Your confidence will flourish when you stop looking sideways and start focusing on the road ahead. The third devastating mistake is allowing the fear of failure to dictate your actions. This is the paralysis that sets in before you even begin. It's the brilliant idea you never share, the business you never start, the relationship you never pursue, all because of a terrifying what if. What if I'm rejected? What if I look foolish? What if I try my best and it's still not good enough? This fear creates an invisible cage, and we willingly lock ourselves inside, choosing the certainty of stagnation over the possibility of a painful fall. The irony is that by avoiding the possibility of failure, we guarantee it. We fail by default, by never trying, and our confidence withers not from a spectacular defeat, but from 1,000 small acts of cowardice. The Stoics had a revolutionary perspective on failure. They saw it not as an end, but as an integral part of life and a powerful tool for growth. Marcus Aurelius famously wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." For a Stoic, a setback is not a verdict on your worth. It is simply new information. It is an opportunity to practice virtue, courage, resilience, creativity, and patience. Failure is the raw material from which wisdom is forged. It is the fire that tempers the steel of our character. To fear it is to fear the very process that makes us stronger, wiser, and ultimately more capable. To overcome this fear, you must reframe your relationship with failure and start taking calculated risks. Begin with small, manageable actions that push you just outside your comfort zone. The goal is not to succeed or fail, but simply to act. Redefine failure as data. If you try something and it doesn't work, you haven't failed. You've just discovered a way that doesn't work and learned a valuable lesson. Shift your focus from the outcome, which is often outside your complete control, to the effort, which is entirely within it. Celebrate the courage it took to try. With each small act of bravery, you are teaching your nervous system that you can handle setbacks. You are proving to yourself that a fall is not fatal, and this earned experience is the very essence of authentic confidence. The fourth mistake is one of the most insidious because it comes from within: indulging in negative self-talk. This is the voice of the inner critic, that relentless narrator who whispers or shouts that you are not smart enough, not attractive enough, not worthy enough. It replays your past mistakes on a loop, magnifies your flaws, and dismisses your accomplishments as luck. We would never tolerate a friend speaking to us in such a harsh, demeaning way. Yet we allow this internal monologue to run unchecked day after day. This constant barrage of internal criticism systematically dismantles our self-esteem, making it impossible for confidence to take root. It is a form of self-sabotage that convinces us we are our own worst enemy. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus provided the master key to disarming this inner critic. He taught, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." The thing is the event, a mistake at work, a clumsy comment. The view is your inner critic screaming, "You're an idiot. You always mess things up." The suffering comes not from the event, but from the harsh, irrational judgment you attach to it. The Stoics practiced a form of cognitive mindfulness, learning to observe their thoughts as separate from themselves. They would examine an impression and ask, "Is this based on reality, or is it just a story I'm telling myself?" This creates a crucial space between impulse and reaction, allowing reason to intervene. To silence your inner critic, you must first become aware of its voice. Start by simply noticing when you are engaging in negative self-talk without judgment. When you catch it, challenge it as you would a hostile prosecutor. Is this thought actually true? Is it 100% true? Is there a more compassionate, more realistic way to view this situation? Then consciously replace the negative thought with a more balanced and constructive one. Instead of, "I'm a failure," try, "I made a mistake and I can learn from it." Instead of, "Everyone thinks I'm awkward," try, "I felt a bit awkward in that situation, and that's okay. I'm practicing." Treat yourself with the same rational kindness you would offer a dear friend. This internal compassion is not weakness. It is the disciplined practice of building a supportive inner environment where confidence can thrive. The fifth mistake is neglecting the fundamental pillar of self-care. We often treat our bodies and minds as mere tools to achieve our goals, pushing them to the brink with little regard for their needs. We sacrifice sleep for productivity, fuel ourselves with poor nutrition, and let stress accumulate without any form of release. We believe we are being dedicated, but we are actually engaging in a slow act of self-destruction. A mind that is exhausted, a body that is unwell, and a spirit that is burned out cannot possibly sustain a state of confidence. When your physical and mental resources are depleted, your resilience plummets, your emotional regulation fails, and your perception of your own capabilities becomes clouded by fatigue and anxiety. The Stoics, while emphasizing the supremacy of the mind and virtue, were not ascetics who ignored the body. They understood that the body is the vessel for the soul, the instrument through which our reason and will operate. Seneca, in his letters, often spoke of the importance of physical exercise, proper rest, and simple living as prerequisites for a clear and tranquil mind. He saw a disciplined care for the body not as vanity, but as a duty. A healthy, well-rested body supports a sharp, resilient mind. To neglect one is to weaken the other. True strength is holistic, encompassing both the physical and the mental. Therefore, building unshakable confidence requires you to treat self-care as a non-negotiable discipline. This means prioritizing 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night, understanding that this is when your brain consolidates learning and regulates emotion. It means fueling your body with nutritious food that provides sustained energy, not just temporary fixes. It means incorporating regular physical activity into your life, which is one of the most powerful antidepressants and anxiety reducers available. And crucially, it means scheduling time for true rest and reflection, whether through meditation, journaling, or simply spending quiet time in nature. This is not an indulgence. It is the essential maintenance required to keep your inner fortress strong and ready for any challenge. The sixth mistake is the trap of setting unrealistic expectations for yourself, a behavior often disguised as ambition but rooted in perfectionism. This is the mindset that demands flawless performance on the first try, that sets goals so lofty they are almost impossible to reach, and that views anything less than a perfect outcome as a total failure. This approach creates a constant cycle of striving and disappointment. You are perpetually setting yourself up to fall short, and each time you do, it reinforces the narrative that you are not good enough. This isn't high standards. It's a recipe for chronic self-criticism and burnout, ensuring that your confidence is always just out of reach, dangling at the top of a ladder you can never quite climb. The Stoics offered a powerful antidote to this perfectionism, focusing on the process, not the outcome. The philosopher Zeno used the analogy of an archer. The archer can do everything in their power to succeed. They can select the best bow, choose a straight arrow, perfect their stance, aim with precision, and release the string smoothly. This is all within their control. However, once the arrow is released, a sudden gust of wind, something entirely outside their control, can divert its path. The Stoic archer judges themselves not on whether the arrow hits the bullseye, but on the skill and virtue with which they perform the act of shooting. Their satisfaction comes from executing their part of the process flawlessly, regardless of the final result. To apply this wisdom, you must shift your goals from being outcome-based to being process-based. Instead of "I will get the promotion," which depends on many external factors, set the goal "I will dedicate an hour each day to developing the key skills for that role and will actively seek feedback." Instead of "I will write a best-selling novel," set the goal "I will write 500 words every day." Break your large ambitions into small, concrete daily actions that are entirely within your control. Celebrate your consistency and your effort. This approach builds confidence incrementally and sustainably. Each day you adhere to your process is a victory, proving to yourself that you are disciplined and capable, regardless of what the winds of fortune may bring. The seventh mistake is chaining yourself to the ghosts of your past. This is the mental habit of constantly replaying your failures, cringing at past embarrassments, and ruminating on what you should have or could have done differently. When you live in this state of perpetual review, you are allowing events that are long over to continue to inflict pain and erode your confidence in the present. You are essentially choosing to be judged and sentenced over and over again for a crime for which you have already served the time. This mental prison prevents you from moving forward, as your energy and focus are consumed by a past that cannot be changed, leaving you feeling helpless and defined by your worst moments. Stoicism is fundamentally a philosophy of the present moment. The past, like the future, is considered an indifferent because it is outside of our direct control. While it is wise to learn from past mistakes, it is irrational and harmful to emotionally dwell on them. Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." The same applies to the past. To be mentally and emotionally entangled in what has already occurred is to squander the only time you truly have, right now. The past can be a teacher, but it should never be a permanent residence. Its lessons should be integrated, and then it should be released. The practical path out of this trap is a three-step process: extract, accept, and redirect. First, when a past mistake comes to mind, consciously ask yourself, what is the one useful lesson I can extract from this experience? Once you have identified the lesson, write it down. Second, practice radical acceptance. Acknowledge that the event happened exactly as it did and that you cannot change it. You can say to yourself, "I accept that this happened. It is part of my story, but it does not define my present or future." Finally, and most importantly, consciously redirect your focus to the present moment. Engage your senses. What can you see, hear, and feel right now? What is one small, constructive action you can take in this moment? By repeatedly practicing this process, you train your brain to treat the past as a closed chapter, not an open wound. The final crucial mistake is isolating yourself when your confidence is low. It's a natural protective instinct. When we feel inadequate or ashamed, our first impulse is often to withdraw, to hide our perceived weakness from the world. We turn down social invitations, avoid phone calls, and retreat into ourselves. While this may feel safe in the short term, it creates a dangerous feedback loop. Isolation breeds rumination, allowing our negative thoughts to echo and amplify in the chamber of our own minds without any external perspective to challenge them. It deprives us of support, connection, and the simple, powerful reminder that we are not alone in our struggles. This self-imposed exile starves our confidence of the very things it needs to recover: connection and perspective. The Stoics, often stereotyped as solitary, emotionless figures, were in fact deeply committed to the idea of human community. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly wrote about our social duty, reminding himself, "We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes, like the two rows of teeth, upper and lower." He saw humanity as a single organism, where each individual has a vital role to play in the well-being of the whole. To isolate oneself is, from a Stoic perspective, unnatural. It is to act against our very nature as social beings. Connection with others provides us with the opportunity to practice virtue, to gain perspective, and to both give and receive the support that is essential for navigating the difficulties of life. To counter this mistake, you must fight the urge to withdraw and instead make a conscious effort to connect. This doesn't mean you have to force yourself to go to a loud party if you're not feeling up to it. It means reaching out in a way that feels manageable and authentic. Send a text to a trusted friend and let them know you're having a tough time. Schedule a coffee with a mentor or a family member whose perspective you value. Even a brief, honest conversation can break the spell of negative rumination and provide a much-needed dose of reality. Sharing your struggle not only lightens your own load, but also reminds you that vulnerability is a universal human experience. Re-engaging with your community, even in small ways, is a powerful act of self-compassion and a vital step in rebuilding your inner strength. Now, before you go, let me tell you an ancient story to conclude this episode, the parable of the wise sea captain. An old sea captain who had navigated every known ocean and survived 100 storms was teaching a group of young, ambitious sailors. One of the young sailors, frustrated by a week of contrary winds that kept them from their course, complained loudly, "This is impossible. The gods themselves are against us. How can we ever reach our destination if the wind refuses to blow in our favor?" The old captain, his face a map of wrinkles carved by sun and sea, simply smiled. He did not look at the sky or curse the wind. Instead, he looked at the sails and the rudder. He turned to the young sailor and said, "For 50 years I have been at the mercy of the sea. I have learned that you cannot command the wind. You cannot bargain with the tides. You cannot reason with a storm. To spend your energy wishing for a different wind is to waste your strength and lose your hope." He pointed to the ropes in his hands. "But you can always adjust your sails. A foolish sailor prays for a fair wind. A wise sailor learns to use whatever wind is blowing. A headwind is not a barrier. It is simply a different kind of challenge that requires more skill, more patience, and a different set of maneuvers. The wind is not your enemy or your friend. It simply is. Your confidence comes not from the wind blowing your way, but from knowing that you have the skill to set your sails for any wind that blows." The winds of life, the opinions of others, the sting of failure, the currents of comparison will never cease to blow. The 8 mistakes we've discussed are what happen when we curse the wind and let it tear our sails, leaving us feeling adrift and powerless. The lesson of the wise captain and the timeless truth of the Stoics is that your power is never in the wind, but always in your hands on the ropes. Confidence is not the promise of a calm sea, but the development of an unshakable skill as a sailor of life. It is the quiet internal knowledge that no matter which way the wind blows, you have the strength and the wisdom to set your sails, navigate the storm, and steer yourself toward the harbor of your own choosing.